Thank you for tuning in to Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy podcast, where we delve into crazy creatures, evading extraterrestrials, horrifying haunted places, the unexplained, and the conspiracies that surround them. The following content will more than likely involve explicit language and materials, so listener discretion is advised. For bonus materials, uncut video versions of the episodes, and other great perks, go on over to patreon.com/cryptids, creeps, and conspiracy. Dollars for disclosure, half Sawbuck Snally, and Paranormal Posse members will get a shout on the pod, access to the private Discord server, as well as more perks that you can find in each tier. So grab your rose-colored glasses, skeptical suits, and hold onto your butts as we teleport into the realm of the CCC podcast. Okay, I'll do the intro in a minute. You've got to tell the story again real fast because I cannot believe this. All right, go ahead.
I'll skip all the nonsense of the story. So me and Stacy recorded on Thursday night, this past Thursday, this episode about this conspiracy enthusiast that went missing. There's all this crazy stuff with his story, and basically he was into the military silence and the quiet loop is what he called it. And a lot of people believe that he knew too much information about it and the government got rid of him. So this is the episode that we record on Thursday night. Friday morning, I'm on my way to work and I pull into the gas station and this Explorer pulls right up to the pump behind me. Probably wouldn't have noticed anything had these people gotten out, but I'm standing there pumping my gas. I'm like, they still are not out of their Explorer to pump gas yet. And I realized that
blacked out, right?
Yeah, it was completely blacked out. Like the front windshield, you couldn't even see into. And I'm like, this is weird as shit. And then I get done pumping gas and I leave. And as soon as I pull away from the pump, so did they. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I drive the 20 minutes into town and I'm like, they're still following me. I can't go to work and let them know where I work. Though I should have because I work at the gel. So dummy. Like that would have been the best place to go.
They probably already know at this point.
So I go around in the town that I work in. There's a roundabout right in the center of town, and it's got a bunch of businesses around the roundabout, and so it's just a bunch of like single parking spots that you can pull into. So go around this roundabout just trying to ditch them, and there's one spot open. Pull into that spot, so they have to go by me, and as soon as they pass me, I pull back out and pop behind them, and I snap a picture of it.
True crime go right here. True crime. Got to get that plate number.
Exactly. And I sent it to everybody. I was like, in case I go missing, this is who did it.
I'm glad I'm the one that does that.
And the license plate says CIA 0002.
Ah!
I know. I was like, what the?
On one hand, oh my gosh. On the other hand, if they're CIA and they're supposed to be covert, do you think that's a little brash?
Oh, I know. They were not very good at their job.
But, okay, we can look at it this way. One, you would assume that they would be more discreet. Unless, because MIBs are not discreet. They are very blatantly obvious. You know what they are. And what if it was a scare tactic? Like, we know that, and we're watching you. And they probably, too, they were like, this bitch does true crime all the time. I've got to make sure she's going to get this license plate. So let's fuck with her.
Oh, I know. I was like...
What'd they do when you got behind them? Did you just go to work and they drove off, or?
So as soon as I got behind them and I pulled out of the roundabout, or they come out of the roundabout and I pull out behind them, there's a stop sign right there. So they sat at the stop sign for a really long time. And I'm like, are they just going to sit here? And
that's not what I would have been thinking. I'd be like, these bastards are going to get out of this car.
That's what I was thinking. And I'm like, great, there's cars behind me, so I can't even back up now.
Oh, I'd be curb hopping that shit.
Yeah. And they finally turn. And so I just sped through the stop sign so they couldn't find me again and cut behind a church where there's a little back road. And I never saw them again. If they're really CIA, then they already knew where I work.
Yeah, exactly. So, they already know where your house is.
I know.
And so you're saying that they pulled in when you got into the gas station.
They were already following me.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, did you notice them before? So they probably were following and you just didn't notice.
No, I didn't notice them before until they pulled in. And I wouldn't have even noticed them had they got out and pumped the gas, I don't think.
Or at least go in and get a stick of gum, man. Go get a pack of gum. Come on.
Something, yeah.
Use the
If they had,
bathroom.
yeah, if they had gotten out, I don't think I would notice because that's what I noticed. We've been here for over 5 minutes and nothing. Like they
Yeah,
haven't gotten out yet.
and this is probably a busy time in the morning, right? Like pre-work, people are going to be going in and out of work. Maybe they
Right.
didn't get out of the car because, again, MIB. Oh my gosh, I am like so conspiracy right now. A lot of reports, they're very obvious, right? They look different. A lot of people say that they're more like alien-esque looking, or there's something just strange about them. They stick out like a sore thumb. So
Right.
maybe that's why they didn't get out. Maybe they were hoping that you would think, oh, we're just somebody getting gas or doing whatever, because
Right.
they knew that the moment they got out, you'd be like, oh, I know what you are. Not like it
Right.
matters. At least they didn't like get rid of you, take care of the problem. So that's good. We'd be having a whole different podcast right now, wouldn't we?
That's yeah.
Oh. So have you noticed anything else recently since then, or was it just that one time?
Well, I sent it to Stacy, and I was like, "Bro, if I go missing,"
Oh.
and so when she finally woke up, because this is like 8 o'clock in the morning, so 5 o'clock in the morning her time. So when she got up and she calls me, and she's like, "All of our security cameras around the house between the hour with like the time of 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. just completely black.
No.
Like they were still recording and working, but if they
like somebody
went back
hacked
to
it,
yeah,
they would have unplugged the power. I mean, it would have been recording. But if somebody covered it, you would have seen them cover it.
it
Well,
was just
that's
like
definitely a
black
hack
out
job.
somehow. Yeah.
Oh,
I was
no.
like,
Now I better check my security camera.
and it's not like it's just the ring or anything. It was the indoor one too.
Because they would have had to have hacked the main box to
Right.
turn all that off. Oh, heck to the no. If I go missing, actually, no one's going to be able to access this. After we get done, I'll see if I can maybe send it to you. Just in case something happens. I don't want anybody thinking I disappear for no reason. Yeah, and I like my shades. I threw some shades out for all my patrons out there that can see the video. I threw some shades out because I don't have any makeup on today, and I felt really rough. And so I'm just going to be cool with these shades on.
I think you look cute.
I got my pixelated shades. I have my sensors on.
I'm like so curious. What
It's
are,
been a
what are we
year.
discussing?
Yeah, it's been a year. So for anybody who wants to go way back in the time machine, go back. And literally, if you did not know this, it is a week before a year. Like almost exactly. So timing is great. Lav from early on Wednesdays. Oh, geez. So I met her.
Diarrhea.
Yeah, exactly. Diarrhea over here. And we had met up at Paracon.
Mhm.
We met in person because we've been part of this group and we were in the same place at the same time. So, of course, we met. Come on. And she's, of course, just as beautiful as she is on camera as person.
Thank you.
And if you can't see, okay, one, we're going to say check her out. I'm going to let her do a little thing here. But two, go backwards in time. And I have pictures of her too. Thank you. So what's funny about this is I literally made these notes. So if it's a week to the day almost since I met you in person, I made these notes a year ago. Like they've been ready for a year. Just waiting for you. First I was like, I don't know. And then I met you and I talked to you and I was like, okay, gotta have her do it. These are for her. I haven't read these in a year, so this is gonna be a surprise to me too.
I know, I'm excited.
It's going to be great. But before we start all that, I want to give you an opportunity to do some shouts, do your little blurb. Like the floor is going to be yours to do whatever kind of advertising you would like to do. I like to sneak it in at the beginning so people don't skip.
Okay. So I'm Lav with Early on Wednesday. It's me and my co-host Stacy. We have a true crime, primarily true crime, but we do some paranormal cryptids and some conspiracy stuff on there. So if you guys are interested in that, go ahead and give it a check out. My Instagram is Murder Juice, and you can basically find me anywhere, either under Murder Juice or Early on Wednesday.
Are there any platforms that they cannot find you on? Or are you on all audio?
We're on all audio.
Okay.
Oh, we have a YouTube
There you
too. Yeah, so we have YouTube, and then you can find the podcast anywhere.
All right. So early on Wednesday, everywhere, specifically for Miss Lav, Murder Juice. It's just Murder Juice. I'm trying to remember because I know that Stacy's like, which with the gifts, 666, she's got a big long one. Ha ha. Sorry. If those of you who don't know Stacy, please go listen to one of my episodes and you'll get the joke. Okay. Anytime I do a haunted place, I try to find someone, if I have not been there myself, I try to find someone who has more extensively. Now, we were at Pennhurst Asylum, and that's where the whole gig was. And it was amazing. So many amazing people there. And they let you just, depending on what ticket you had or whatever, you could go to different locations in it. So I am probably going to try to repost some of my videos because I actually took, you for those of you with the video, up here in the corner, that little green and white spiral. You can't really see his head, but that's Parapuppy up here. And I took him with me. Now my K2 meter is not on right now because it was working yesterday or the day before. Conveniently, last night I noticed that my ring light turned itself on while I wasn't in the room. And apparently whatever, I guess, turned the light on also drained my battery in the K2 meter that I did not know of until I got in here today. So it's not working. But anyway, Parapuppy, took him with me, and he actually got quite a bit of activity from it. Like even to the point where I think you were with me. We walked into one of the rooms. I don't remember which building it was. And we had walked by and I just hung him. So I had a purse strapped around my shoulders and I just hung his front little paws over it, just toted him around with me. And when we walked into a room, there were people doing a spirit box session and it was saying something about, is it something about a bear, which everybody thought it was a bear, but whatever. There's a reason I call it a puppy. And that's mainly because there's a bear that kind of exists, but it's not handmade like mine. So just for legality reasons, I call it a puppy. And then it was saying the color green, which is exactly what my thing was. And the people were like, what are you talking about? Green bear? That doesn't make any sense. And then they saw me walk by with my green thing hanging off my purse. And they were like, hey, can we borrow that? Because whatever we're talking to wants to play with it. I was just like, sure. And just let him borrow it for a few minutes. And I think you were with me.
I was. Yeah.
So it was just something that I thought was crazy. And like I said, being there for the event, you don't have as exclusive access or I guess secluded because there are so many people in there. I feel like that affects everything in general. But I did still manage to get some stuff, so I'll post it. But that leads me to, in case you haven't guessed, we are going to talk about Pennhurst Asylum. And at the end, we're going to keep the same structure I normally do, building history if I can find anything on it, what's reported. Then at the end, I want to talk to you about what you experienced there, if anything, because I know that you had said when we were talking about it, yes, I remember a conversation from a year ago, everybody. Contrary to popular belief with my goldfish memory, I can recall conversations. I don't know why. But I just wanted to make sure that I had you on here because so far you're the only person I know of that has done an actual investigation at the location. I got my wall up. We got the thing going. So we are ready to rock and roll.
Let's do it.
So as for Pennhurst, the facility actually opened up, from what I found, in November of 1908. I gotta hate numbers. Yeah, that one, 1908. And it was actually a state-funded institution for quote-unquote feeble-minded and epileptic people in Eastern PA, Pennsylvania, for those of you who are not in the States. And what I thought was interesting about that was it doesn't specifically say, or a vaguely mental institution or something like that. It specifically says feeble-minded, which I guess technically was considered all mental health. But for me, it was feeble-minded and epileptic people. So they separated the two terms, which I thought was fascinating. I'm not really sure unless, okay, we're going to go back in time. I think there were a lot of mental issues or disabilities that were not necessarily classified in the meanings of an epileptic, where they would primarily think that they were possessed. So maybe that's why they separated the two. Maybe it was, oh, these people aren't there, and then epileptic was. I understand. Thank you. Please tell me you're making noise right now.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
It literally just sounded like something was like. Can you hear that? It sounds like something's like scratching my wall.
Oh, that's creepy.
Hello? stopped. Okay. That was weird. I wonder if it'll pick it up. I don't think it will, but maybe it will. We'll see. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting that they did separate the two, and I thought maybe that was why. And they had created the building during an increased popularity of sending quote unquote intellectually deficient or developmentally disabled people off to hide them away from society and just forget about them. So you got a problem. They went straight up Kennedy family on these people. Lock them up, set them aside, forget about them. And I am really going to be honking off the people. We've already talked about conspiracies, CIA, MIB, and now I'm bringing the Kennedys. I might disappear. The second time they did talk about just developmentally. So not only was it mentally ill people, it was developmentally challenged. So even though you might have appeared normal, you were developmentally deficient and you didn't fit into society. So they would just basically lock you away. If you were a little slow or you were a little whatever, which really sucks because back then there really wasn't the education system that there is now. So there were probably a lot more people that were fine. They just weren't getting the education that they needed to at least appear normal in society. I do believe also around the same time, it was commonplace for people to, depending on your status, there was a movie. I keep talking about this movie and I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called. There was a movie and the whole movie was about essentially there was a room up in the attic. They had made it a room and they would this was a common thing back in the day that people would build a room and they would put the people in the room, like these kids or whatever. And
it's in like an old house, right?
Yeah.
I think and she has to get the key. The star has to find the key to open the room.
Because she wants to know what it is. She's trying to figure out because she sees someone in the room.
And she has to find like the key to it. I know what movie you're talking about.
Yeah. But it was commonplace back then to essentially have this room separate from the living quarters or where anybody could see them. And they would take these children that were not, I guess, normal, quote unquote, for those of you who can't see the video, air quotes. And they would essentially either chain them to the floor or just make them live up there and they would nail the door shut. And then they would essentially feed them like prisoners, just slide a tray in and feed them. Now, at this point, I don't know why you didn't just get rid of them. You know what I mean? Instead of just like feeding them or send them off. But apparently that was a thing. Maybe those that could afford to send them off did. Those that couldn't just had to hide them away because I don't know what moral standard they have back then that maybe that was it. I don't know. But weak. Yeah, maybe they were weak.
Right.
And the people that were there were often referred to again as defective, degenerate, unfit. And those particular words as well strike me as like when you say degenerate, I don't think someone who is slow or lacking of some sort of brain development. I think troublemaker. Oh, that degenerate.
Menace to society.
So I was a little curious because think about it. If you have all these kids that are so problematic and it is not mentally based, it might be mentally based, but they weren't born with it, right? Maybe it's Maybelline. And so you stick them in a house with people that are essentially defenseless. They're helpless. They have to rely on somebody because they cannot take care of themselves. And then you have these people that exploit people like that. I can only imagine. It's awful. After they initially started off, again, with feeble-minded epileptic people, we then transitioned into people that were also physically disabled. And then we started seeing them accepting immigrants, criminals, orphans. So essentially it came this catch-all. All these people, it did not matter. If you didn't have a place to stay, they were going to bring you in. And I couldn't find anywhere where they separated wards or anything.
They did have a woman's ward, I think.
Oh, yes. They had the woman's ward, but I'm thinking more of these people are physically disabled. These people are mentally disabled. These people are immigrants. These people are the criminals. We're going to keep them separate. I don't think so. Here's this melting pot.
Yeah, they had the woman's ward, and then they had the ones that was like the very violent people. They did separate them from the other.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that.
And I think, I can't remember. exactly who, but they sterilized, I guess, is the best term, majority of the people that came in there.
And that was not a cleansing sterilization, just to clarify. Which that to me, it makes on one hand makes sense, but on the other hand, that would then open the door to a lot of people to get away with a lot of things they should not have gotten away with because there wouldn't be any evidence.
Oh, and that's what the the whole thing with Pennhurst, why Pennhurst is so famous is that they were the first institution in the United States to start eugenics experiments.
Really?
They started in right after they opened, I want to say like 1910 or something, and they were doing
wow.
eugenics experiments. And in fact, a lot of their experiments that they were doing, the Dr. Godford or Godward or something
ironic.
like that, he sold the experiments to the Nazis. And those are the same experiments that they conducted then on the Jews in World War II.
Y'all can't see my jaw just hit the floor. Okay,
Yep.
hold on. Let me pick that up real fast. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll touch on that later, but I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read these notes in a year, but that is freaking intense. Not to mention, I wonder if there's a correlation of the genetic or any of the testing with them then accepting people that were quote unquote normal with the people that were lacking.
And I think that's part of it. That's why they had just the criminals and stuff so they can have a normal
the nature versus
DNA
nurture situation.
gene comparison.
Oh. Ooh, okay. Oh, man, that's bad. I did see that originally, as per a lot of institutions, reformatories specifically, they do try to make them as self-sufficient as possible. And this one was no different. They had their own power plant that they ran off of. They had their own police there, which I'm not sure if that's good. And then they actually produced pretty much entirely their own food source.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty self-sufficient. And what I was wondering is when that started, if it started initially like that, because if you had a lot of feeble-minded epileptic people, the epileptic people don't always have fits. So I could see them being able to do stuff. But the people that were quote unquote feeble-minded, how efficient would they have been at growing things, running things? Who were the police? Were the police outside people, or did they bring people in and they were police? It doesn't. I'm assuming they came from outside, right?
Yeah, I think they were just staff. It was, think of it more of like campus security.
Ah, okay. That makes more sense. Oh, that's just, okay. I'm still on the testing thing. I'm like, oh, dear God.
I know.
Yeah, all of this is happening, and it goes, tell me about it. They're also disgusted with the testing. People started to get a little concerned because the functioning, oh gosh, let's see if I can pronounce this, Elwyn and Polk institutions, which are nearby, were becoming overcrowded because so many people were being forced into facilities because of just bullshit reasons. My wife's on her period, throw her in there. Right. I want to be sleeping with the maid, throw my wife in there. She talked back to me. She had any type of opinion, throw her in there. Kid misbehaved. I was tired of spanking him, throw him in there. It was stupid stuff.
Right.
I still can't believe the crap they let these people get away with. Over the span of 80 years, more than 10,500 people lived on this property, and it was about 1,400 acres, which, for those of you who don't live in Midwest area and you don't hunt on, say, 50-acre property to know how big it is, it's huge. That's sometimes like a whole county, almost. I mean, little baby counties. And at most, at one point, there was 3,500 people registered there. And that's the number I got to drop in a bucket. I don't know if that included staff or not, but either way, even with staff involved, that's still a ridiculous amount of people for one location, especially because I've been there. You've been there. It is, yes, it's big. Let me tell you, my feet were hurting after walking in that place. I was exhausted, but still not enough. That is literally bigger than my town. My entire town. is smaller than this by 1,000 people. So essentially, this is a 25% increase on what I am used to seeing in my town, people-wise.
I don't think that included like the immigrants and stuff, especially any illegals or anything like that.
The illegals, this one, like I said, it just told me there was 3,500 people here at once. Now, I will say this though, if the institution was not privately owned and they were getting money from any outside source, they would have made sure, dozens, thank you, they would have made sure not to miss a head count, because the more heads they had in there, the more money they got. So that's where when people are like, oh, some institutions were privately owned, they didn't get any help, so it didn't matter. They didn't care.
I wonder if it was privately owned.
Yeah, so I wanted to see, I think I get to it here soon because I think it sells out to somebody. So I'll find out. They do say that there was a horrifying amount of people did not make it. 50% of the people died while in the institution due to strictly the poor living conditions. And that is ridiculous. 50%. So if there was 3,500 people there at once, that's what? 1,750 people, if my math is right, that died just because the conditions were so shitty. And when they say poor living conditions, I'm going, okay, are we talking mold? Are we talking, like, what constitutes poor living conditions? Did they starve? It didn't specify, but I can only imagine having that many people.
I think if I remember right, they only had the accommodations for 3,000 residents.
Yeah. And
so that's probably part of it. If they only had that people were starving, probably.
Yeah, and my thing was, is it didn't just say, oh, they starved to death. It was living conditions. So I'm like, what else would constitute? Was it maybe infection? Maybe they got sick and they got infected?
Have you seen pictures?
Not of the old. Wait, actually, were there any there? I think there were some there, but obviously not the gnarly ones because they don't want to.
There's pictures of like people just naked.
Okay.
And things like that. They looked so skinny, and
they didn't have heat and air. So if you're Nikki and it's freezing cold outside, okay, now the living conditions is making more sense. All right, thank you. Because I was like, what the hell are these people dying from? I was like, is this like a COVID situation that you can get hit by a car and they say it's COVID? What's going on here? Sorry, I just probably pissed a lot of people off there. Sorry. But in the 1960s, Pennhurst was actually housing 900 over the normal capacity. So like you said, they were only equipped to handle so many, and it just didn't work out. So we're talking, like you said, almost 1,000 people over capacity. And it's not like you've got 50 people that you can deal with. That's a lot. That's a lot of people soaking up resources. And crowding leads to people being cranky and anxious, and they've already got feeble-minded people in there. And trust me, when I'm in a crowd of people, I don't do well. And I technically would have probably qualified as a feeble-minded person back in the day. I'm a little bit cray-cray.
Just say the wrong thing on that time of the month and we would have both been there.
Yeah. It's just, ugh. And by the end of the 40s, it says that people finally began to protest in defense of the rights of the people that were considered less than human. And they had this big advocacy movement that went all across the country. So it wasn't just this place, but all around. These people are starting to fight for the rights of these people that are incarcerated. Well, I guess incarcerated is not the best word for all of them, but imprisoned. People are finally starting to fight for the rights of these people. And at one point, this facility was actually nicknamed the Shame of Pennsylvania. I mean, that's like saying something is like that. We have Gary in my state. We call Gary, Indiana, the armpit of Indiana because it's just so awful. And the fact that you'd be labeled as the shame of the entire state is just no bueno. And the start of that movement was initiated actually by some very disturbing like exposés that they aired on a channel called TV10 Network. And the most influential was this film that they had. It was called Suffer the Little Children. That doesn't sound creepy enough to start with. And it was
Right.
filmed by a Bill Baldini, and it had very vivid images of the following. They were barely clothed children that were just wandering around the ward like little free roam chickens. Adults who's had their hands and feet strapped to essentially what looked like a adult-sized crib.
Hmm.
Then there were sounds and sight experienced in everyday life. So you could hear the people moaning and crying. And it's just, I can't even fathom what that would have felt like in there. There was narrative that revealed horrible hidden neglect that was happening all throughout the facility.
Hmm.
One scene was just labeled as completely horrific, and it showed a physician explaining how he treated, quote unquote, a bully that beat another inmate.
Oh.
So he asked a colleague which type of injection would cause the most discomfort without permanently damaging the victim, or I guess the perpetrator. And then he administered that injection. What can do the most harm without killing him or leaving evidence that I did anything? And then that's what he did.
Happy Mother's Day.
I was laughing earlier. I made myself breakfast. My kid's not even home, but I was like, I made myself breakfast. I'm sitting in bed eating scrambled egg toast sandwiches, sharing them with my dogs, making podcast notes, and watching anime because I am that person. I was like, say you're a nerd without saying you're a nerd. But anyway, so the footage on this expose was so disturbing that in 1985, the U.S. Supreme Court, which was a member of the court, Justice Thurgood Marshall, denounced that, oh my gosh, I want to say regime. I know it's regime of the state mandated segregation and degradation that in its virulence and bigotry reviled, indeed paralleled the worst features of Jim Crow. That was a quote from him. So basically, like, this thing was bad. They were seeing some bad stuff. And during that specific, why can't I talk today? But during the time frame, the residents started being called self-advocates and began campaigning for humane treatment and more protection under the law that was already starting to get some ground. And Pennhurst was caught up in several civil rights suits by the 70s and was closed 3 years after their loss in the Halderman and Pennhurst State School and Hospital case in 1984. So those that managed to survive were better off in just about every way measured. So no one ended up homeless. So after this whole court date, they didn't just kick everybody on their ass whenever they closed it. No one ended up homeless. No one went to jail, which I'm not sure that's necessarily good if you have criminals in there that deserved it. But their lifespan actually increased by 6 years per person. They later found out. They also became about 14% more productive once living in an institute versus being in that facility. The disruptive behaviors decreased by 3%. They received 19% more learning assistance, which I think is very good also. And after 14 years of interviews with past residents, only 6 people said that they would return out of all those. Yeah, think 3,500 people. That just was at one point. That's not total over the span of the facility. That was just one head count. And only 6 of them said they would go back. So that says a lot.
I can't believe any said they would go back.
Exactly. One thing is maybe they were the ones that were there in the beginning before the shat hit the fan. Maybe. And since the facility closed, obviously everybody wants to go in there and check it out because this place is creepy. But there's been activity documented everywhere from photos, videos, EVPs, some examples of people saying, go away, I'll kill you, we're upset, which who wouldn't be living in those conditions. So one of the buildings, I broke this out by what people had reported by building. So for everybody who doesn't know, this is a facility, but not one local building. It is spread out with multiple buildings on the grounds, kind of like dorm rooms, I guess you could say. So the Quaker building, there were the following. It says lots of shadows that manifest and dissipate at will, which is a little creepy. There's a small female child with long dark hair, which is weird because I've seen something similar to that before, not at the
Right.
facility. Someone who was hunched over with long dangling arms, which is creepy.
Oh.
Just the upper bodies looking around or over things, kind of like they're peering or peeping at something. Moving doors, moving rocking chairs, speak of the devil. One investigator was shoved from behind, and I've been in that situation before too and scared the crap. I almost got pushed off a third story floor. It was bad. People were scratched, objects were thrown around in the basement. Again, there were also EVPs in this building as well. Then there's the Limerick building, which doesn't look like it has as much. It looks like there's an apparition of a vintage nurse, EVPs, but I didn't see exactly what. Then the Mayflower building was a little bit more shadow people, EVPs, people reporting they were being touched. Then there's the Tinicum building, which is, again, legs specifically being touched. And EVPs, I'm wondering if there's kids in that specific building, and that's why their legs are being touched and not anything else. They're just small kids. And then there's the Philadelphia building, which is loud noises, voices that you can hear, but I guess you can't make sense of what they're saying most of the time. In the admin building, there's, again, multiple voices, EVPs, and then flushing water sounds, which I think is interesting.
Hmm.
And then lastly is the Hershey building. It just says female child's voice, and that was it. Now, when I was there, like I said, I was there for a huge event. There were people everywhere, and I feel I don't know. Everybody has their viewpoint, but I personally believe that with so many people in the area, there's so much energy there. Not necessarily that more things would happen, but there's going to be so many different types of energy that these things might be overwhelmed, and they're not going to feel comfortable coming out.
That's true.
Or there might be a bunch of people wanting to look, but there's one person with bad energy and they are not comfortable coming out or communicating, or they can sense people are going to exploit what they do. I don't know. I feel like when there's a lot of people, especially because it was during the day, which I don't really have the belief that things happen at night unless something
Right.
did happen at night. I have stuff that happens in the middle of the day all the time. So I don't feel like there's time constraints or anything. But I feel like having all of that traffic in and out are going to make them not want to be present. Aside from the K2 meter that I hooked to Parapuppy, I didn't personally have a whole lot. But then again, also, if you're doing any type of investigation and there's 30 people in a building, you don't know what Bob's doing on the second floor, Susie's doing on the
Right.
first floor, and you're in the basement. Excuse me. You just don't know. It's hard to gauge what is activity and what's just somebody else making noise. But since you were able to investigate this, I wanted to kind of touch base with you and ask you, what did you experience when you investigated the facility?
So when I went, we did an overnight in the Quaker building.
All right, now let me go back up here.
And
Oh,
so
okay. The Quaker building is what I have the most activity listed for. It's
so
been
the
reported.
Quaker building was the one where they housed all the violent offenders.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
And from my understanding, it was a free for all. Staff rarely
Ugh.
was in and out. They were locked in there on their own accord. So they had developed like gangs that the more intelligent of them became the ringleaders, and it was
Yeah.
like gang wars, and they were constantly beating each other up and fighting over things,
Mm.
and nobody really went in and did anything. So it makes
Was that the
sense that
larger
that's
building that was there where we went into the basement from the side? Is that the Quaker building?
the Quaker building is the one that has the
Because one of them had like a bunch of stairs. Like when you first went in, it was like the small. They weren't like a spiral, but it was like really zigzaggy.
I
With
think
the
yeah, it was
okay,
it was I think it was like a 3-story one,
yes, okay, yeah.
and it's all I think they were all brick, but like when you first walked in and there's like the set of stairs.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And so we spent the night in there, And it was a lot of things like, obviously, we're trying to get them to communicate with us and do with stuff with us, but they really didn't until we
Okay.
were like, okay, we're done.
Uh,
We're done.
Patrick.
And then it was we just left stuff up and we're all just now talking and stuff, and then they're getting mad, and you could tell it was like on the EVPs that people got, you could hear them saying things to others, like not us, like
Yeah,
bossing
like they
people
talk.
around.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
touch that, go do that.
Oh.
And then something would happen. It would be in like
Oh, that is
correlation
so
with
crazy.
a light going off or something, but it's somebody else telling somebody else to touch it.
I wonder why they didn't touch it. I wonder if they just didn't have the gusto,
I don't know.
or maybe they were like, "Oh, this thing might hurt us or something." You go touch it.
And then there was a woman that was, oh God, what do they call it? An automatic writer.
Yes.
And she was, she did stuff for a while, and whoever was coming through her was somebody that was there for as a criminal.
Oh, okay.
And and he was in there for murder, I
Ooh.
think. And he had some learning disabilities.
Okay.
Um, but it wasn't anything. He was saying it was like dyslexia or something. I can't
Oh,
remember.
yeah.
So not really. He's
Not
not
debilitating
really.
entirely.
Yeah. And so they put
Your
him
camera
in
keeps like
there.
focusing and unfocusing. It's really weird.
Is it?
Yeah, like it's seriously, it's like you're like blurry then straight, the blurry then straight. It's like it keeps like being
That's
like
kind of
whoop,
cool though.
whoop, whoop. Yeah, there it goes again.
And yeah, he did a lot of talking through her and was telling the day in and day out. And that's where they were saying, like, he was the one that was saying, like, it was just the Wild West.
Oh man.
They would come in. The only time they ever saw anybody is to if they came in, and then the security would come in and drag people out, and then they would never see them again.
Oh
Or
shit.
they would see staff like at meal times, and then they would just bring in the food and just leave it in there, and then they would leave. So then it was
Eat or
like,
be eaten.
mm,
Oh wow.
and it was just like the Wild West. And so it was a lot of like gang activity and stuff. He didn't describe it as gang activity, but that's just what
Yeah.
I correlate it to. It was like you had to find a group to protect you.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So
So,
what I think would be really cool is if you ever go back or if I ever find a group to go, I can't really do a whole lot by myself, but
well,
some
so they do. So that's how I got in because I just went by myself. So just keep an eye on the website and
oh
they'll
like a
do overnights.
okay, so it's
And
kind of like
it's
the
like,
Ohio State Reformatory that I did. I went with a friend of mine, but we were like in a group. It goes,
mhm.
damn. And we went as a group to go up there. And that's actually the first time that I was introduced to cat balls and then some trail lights that were there and a music box. I didn't get exposed to a lot of the equipment until I was at that one.
And that's how mine did too. But yeah, there was a bunch of, I think there was 200 of us total.
Oh, wow.
And
I guess you
so,
guys
and they
weren't
were
all in the
in
same building.
different,
So.
we were split up through all
Yeah.
the buildings. I want to say there was only 15. There was probably about
Oh,
15
that's not
of
bad.
us in the one building. And we were split up between all the different buildings, but there was about 200 people total. And it was pricey. I think I paid 550
Oh,
bucks, but they
damn.
provided,
Because where?
they, they provided dinner and breakfast the next morning.
Hell, it must have been some good breakfast and
It
dinner.
was actually like dinner was bomb. I can't remember what they fed us for breakfast, but dinner was really good. But yeah, it was pretty pricey, but it was just there was no staff there. It was just us.
Oh, yeah. Because when I went to Ohio State Reformatory, we were there overnight, and I think it was only like $120 or something. Now they didn't. I don't think they fed us or anything, but still, $100 versus 500 is definitely a difference.
Yeah,
But
it
with
was
all the
expensive, but it was worth it. We got there, and a part of it too was like the day before. So we got there the day before. You got to take the normal tours. You got to
yeah,
take the history tour. You got the tours like the normal tourist tours, and then when it all shut down for the day, we got to stay.
that is pretty cool. The ones I did, we just showed up and did our thing and then left. Like it wasn't like
Hmm.
a whole lot.
Yeah. There was some
But
people that did it that way. They said that they didn't want to know the history and things like
now
that.
Patrick
So
again. Do you know Patrick?
I don't know, Patrick.
Me neither. But I've
Huh.
gotten it twice now.
Interesting.
Patrick. I don't think I know Patrick.
Is somebody that was talking to me named Patrick, maybe? Maybe that's that criminal's name.
Yeah, hit that light, guys. Come on.
Right.
Let us know what's up. We haven't had the lights go off once. It's so weird. Normally they're very active. But then again, whatever's scratching on the wall was like over like in this vicinity. So like it's right where
Not
most of my
near the
sisters
cat
are.
balls. Yeah.
I'm wondering if whatever is scratching at the wall is making them not want to come over here.
Oh, maybe.
But for the sounds of it, it sounds like a lot. Most of the stuff that you got was EVPs that you wouldn't have been aware of until afterwards.
Yeah.
And then you found out that they correlated with the other activities. Well,
Hmm.
with that being said, I think it'd be really fascinating to go and have somebody do the Estes method because then it's like an EVP, but it's like real time. So that might be something to check out if you go back again to just
Yeah,
kind of
that
try
would be
that.
cool. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what the Estes method is, essentially you go, I've tried it before, but I am not good at Estes method, mainly because I was born funny. And my ears don't drain right. So I constantly have fluid, and they kept trying to do surgeries
Right.
to fix it and ended up doing more damage than before. So I have a lot of hearing issues, which is why I use the app that I use for communicating because any of those ones that plays that background noise, I cannot sift through the background noise to know. I can hear sometimes a voice, but I can't ever make out what it's saying because my
Right.
ears just translate it all as one sound. And with the Estes method, essentially, you have somebody who puts on a blindfold and they put on headphones, preferably noise canceling headphones, and you essentially play that same static. And it's just like if you have a spirit box, only you close your eyes and you have that on. And then others will ask questions. And then you, as the person or whoever is the
Hmm.
person blindfolded with the headphones on, is listening for the responses. So essentially, it would be like I am blindfolded and have the headphones on. Lav is asking, what is your name? I can't hear what Lav is asking. I just hear over the box say Patrick. And she'll say, what is your name? And I say Patrick, but I have no idea that she even asked a question because I can't hear her.
I
And
love
then,
that.
yeah, and you can't hear what I'm hearing. So
Exactly.
for me, it adds some validation to it. The fact that you can, and like I said, some people are like, oh, you can hear. No, I can tell you if you have the right equipment, I couldn't hear shit that anybody
Right.
was asking. And when I did it, it was actually me and my mom that were both blindfolded with the headphones on. And it was weird because, like, again, I couldn't hear much, so it wasn't as helpful. But before I went, there was two other people, and that's why I did it because I wanted to know, can they really hear the questions? But you couldn't hear shit. We had
Hmm.
two people up there. So we had one lady asking the questions, two people that were listening, and they were responding to this lady's question like in unison. It's like they had two people communicating and they were coherent. They made sense. It was just bananas. And so then, of course, me being skeptic Sally over here, I was like, oh, maybe they heard the questions and they were just answering, but you really couldn't hear anything. And so I just like that. It's like I said, now if you use the wrong equipment and you have headphones that aren't sufficient or
Yeah,
spirit
you have to
box
have
is
like the
not turned
noise
up,
canceling headphones and stuff for it to
yes.
really.
But if you have the right stuff, it really is a good resource to try to use. And I feel like judging by what you said you experienced there, that would be probably the best return method.
Mm. Yeah.
Now, there obviously wouldn't have been any kids in that ward.
No.
A lot of times I feel like it depends on the person. a lot of times the kids like Parapuppy, I've noticed, and they like the cat balls because they light up like rainbows, and they're fun. You just want to push a
Right.
ball and it lights up like a rainbow, and it's just something that I feel like would be good. The automatic writer thing was really cool. I've never done an investigation with somebody who could do that. Um,
I mean,
but did
she
you?
does the same thing. She had on headphones, and I don't remember what she said she was listening to, but she had, and I thought it was funny because I was like, oh, screamo music or something. But she just has her headphones on, and she just puts her music, whatever music she likes on, and then she blindfolds.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool.
And
'Cause that.
then it was the same sort of thing. So she's listening to music, and we're asking questions and talking, and
So
it's coming through.
essentially,
Yeah.
you might have technically done Estes method with an automatic writer. So that's you're cooking with the grease. You
Right.
added that extra because not only did you then have her audio, like they knew, like with the writing, they probably were like, oh, okay, like she can do that. They might have
Mm-hmm.
been more active, and that's cool. Did you go to any other buildings, or were you just in the Quaker building that night?
So it was just the Quaker building that night. I went through the other buildings on the tour and stuff, and I can't really remember all of them. I do remember going through the tunnels, and like the tunnels were so just oppressive.
Oh,
It was almost hard to breathe with the intensity, and they used the tunnels to move the bodies to
oh, yep.
the mass cemetery or mass. I don't even think that they really gave them proper burials. It was more like a mass
Mm,
grave, if I remember right.
yep. That's not good. Yes, that's
Hmm.
very. Well,
Most
what
of
I
the
think is,
buildings had like a tunnel connecting down to the
yeah,
cemetery,
because they
though.
closed the tunnels off. And I
Hmm.
remember I was talking to somebody, and they said they had tried to get in the tunnels one year, like to sneak in the tunnels.
Oh, you're probably going to
And
hear my dogs barking
oh,
because I
great.
think Eddie just got here.
Oh, but they got. He goes, "What happened?" But like they said that they got like, thrown out of the event. But then the next year, I think this year they offered the option you could buy a pass to get in the tunnels. I think this year I'm not
Oh,
able to make
that
it because I can't afford it.
maybe
But
they opened them back up. When we were down there, they were like very falling apart and stuff, and they needed maintained. So
yeah,
it was probably a safety issue.
uh, gotcha. But yeah, that's just something that. So when you went, did you choose what building to investigate, or did they just stick you in Quaker?
So we got the option. We got to
Okay,
like ask for, but I didn't know which building was which. So I just chose Quaker,
gotcha.
and I can't remember the Hershey building or something is the
Mhm.
two that I chose. And I didn't know what specifically they were until we got in there. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay. I'm not sure if I like this or not, but here we are.
Let fate take its course. Yeah. So maybe you're closer, obviously, than I am. So it'd be cool. You might have an opportunity to go and you could pick different buildings to go through. That'd be pretty neat to see if you get anything else in
Mhm.
any of the other ones.
So they
Um,
do like just little, you can, instead of doing the overnight stays, I've seen them pop up where you can do 2-hour ghost tours and bring your own
yeah.
equipment and go through them. But I don't know if 2 hours is enough to get
Not
through
only
all of
that, but
them.
my thing would be if you do a 2 hour thing, are there multiple 2 hour things? Because again, these things use energy, right?
Mhm.
And so if you're like a 2 hour thing at the end of the night, you might be getting a lot of activity if you go first thing, but by the end of the
Right.
night, they might be drained. And I know a lot of people don't think about that. They're just like, oh, they're either haunted or they're not. They're either doing stuff or they're not. But it really does take energy. I could tell you that as a person who apparently is a beacon, if there is a lot going on around me or something that's taking a lot of energy, like especially like I do better. And you'll notice too, if anybody goes and watches any of these videos, shameless plug, patreon.com/cryptids, creeps and conspiracy. Everybody on the big show gets to see all my videos, all
Right.
creepy stuff. It's all unedited too. So any bloopers or anything like that, it's all in there. I literally just drop the whole file. Don't even touch it. We
Oh,
will come. Thanks. And you'll notice a lot of times, like I just now got to where it's like, if there's a lot of activity going on in the background and stuff while I'm recording, by the time we're done, I'm beat. My whole body just feels exhausted. My brain is fried. I just can't focus. But when there's not as much activity, I do still have a lot of that energy left over. So I know that they pull things, especially because one, they turned my light on yesterday, and now my K2 meter. And I've come in here before, and I have 2 candlesticks in front of me, and they each have 5 battery operated candles in them. And I've come in the studio, and they've been like, it looks like somebody just swooshed them off the top of the desk. Candles were everywhere. Stuff comes flying off the shelves. And I walk in, and when the candlesticks were on the floor, every single one, they take 2 batteries per candle. So I essentially have 20 batteries. Every single candle and every cat ball that I had in my studio that day, deader than a doorknob the next day. And my thing, something did it, because there's no way that, and I only had the batteries in there for a week. I only used the lights maybe 3 times. And these are like good, high quality, like Energizer batteries. I didn't half-ass it. I whole-assed it. And to me, for something to drain and have all of those go out at the exact same time, there had to have been another something pulling that out. But yeah, that's what I have on there as far as that's concerned.
That's perfect timing, since Eddie's here to take me to Mother's Day dinner.
Oh, nice. But again, Lav, thank you for being on. I know that it seems like it's been taking forever, and I've been holding on to this because I wanted to cover it, and I actually did not mean to cover it a week before the event. That's always posted there.
It worked out perfectly.
So, like I said, timing is timing. That's how it works out. So this is actually going to come out. Wow, that was stuttering and a half. It's going to come out this week. I am officially out of spare episodes. I have no backup plan, so this is live. If anybody, I know that's a trip for you. There is in Paducah, I think is how you pronounce it, Kentucky. There's an event going on this weekend, and I got invited to vend. So I will be there as a vendor.
Cool. I wish I could make it.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring my equipment, so that way if anybody wants to say hello or whatever, I want to try to record them so I could splice it all together if anybody wants to say hi, and then have it at the beginning or the end of the episode or something.
Okay.
But I'll be there vending, so if you make it down to Paducah, Kentucky, I think it's called Paducah.
Cry.
But yeah, so again, thank you so much for being on. Remember, guys, Murder Juice everywhere you listen. Early on Wednesday, everywhere
you listen. And Murder
social
Juice
media
is my personal Instagram.
Yes, and then you also have Early on Wednesdays on all your social media as well, correct?
Yes.
But check her out, YouTube, all that stuff. Rate, review, 5 stars only, because I only put 5-star people on the show and they kick ass. So 5 stars only. Other than that, kick rocks. But until next time, everybody, I'll see you.
Bye.